Hey, in this video, I'm going to talk about my startup Aswati. It's a startup aimed to build tools for developers that could be used on a day-to-day basis. We specialize in working on code intelligence tools, and it generally applies to a lot of software development lifecycle management processes in any company that is involved in building softwares, right from building simple mobile apps to writing code for spaceships, satellites, and things like that. So let's understand like what is the first product that we are going to release shortly. We have a lot of products planned, and one of the first products we are going to release is called as LiveDocs. LiveDocs, as the name indicates, is a system for the developer to write documentation that is linked to their code in real time, which is very easy to read and understand. Otherwise, it would be like, as you can see, it seems if you see this comment in your code, like from code to documentation, it's not that straightforward to read or understand. And especially if the person is not a developer or a senior developer, generally the comments are not very tangible. You have to go to a particular file and open it and then read it. Even the logic in the code is not, generally speaking, easy to digest. It does take time to understand what's going on. What we did, however, is we give you a template that you can see on the right side, which links to your source code for a particular repository, and you can write the documentation here. And documentation refers to anything like the story about the code. What does the function particular mean? We don't document everything. We document only the functions and functions, classes, and things like that. Some of the objects which developers are very much interested in, and that they can share with their team members very easily. The great feature that we also have is you can share this documentation with any of your team members with a live URL, which remains connected to your source code. So to give you the importance of this, I would like to show a practical example. Let's open a famous package in the machine learning that is used in the machine learning community called as sklearn. As you can see, all of this is actually documentation, and everything under the comments is documentation. So in order to explain what a particular line of code is actually doing, this is where developers write the documentation. As you can see, it's first of all not easy to read, number one, and number two, even developers need to learn a new language to really document the code. So let's go back and try to understand what our application does. Okay, so I logged into my system. Note that this is running locally. So I have cloned a bunch of repositories. Cloning is very straightforward. You just connect your repository either through an SSH or through HTTPS. You can also clone private repositories. So maybe I can try out this repository and say connect. This is a public repository. So now let's go back and browse the files. Let's say, let me choose something like Storm. Filter out the files by extension. You can browse the source code. You can see like there's a lot of things here like functions, classes, and all that. And just to give you an example of how quick this is where the magic happens. You select a bunch of files and you request what is called as parse files. Parse file extracts the objects of interest for which you can write the documentation. So let us go back again to files. Let's go back to a different repository and say select sklearn. In sklearn, let's try to browse. Sklearn is a decent package. It's not super large. So select all the files and then create the parse file. Now if you go back to the edit pane and start browsing the package, you can see these are all the files that have got some objects inside them. Object refers to generally a class or a function, and main is one of the functions here. So that's all what you can write the documentation here and share it with other people. Maybe I'll show a different file. So you can see there are two functions possibly here. Function number one, you can browse the source code against it to understand how many functions are there. You can also write, there is a second function, as you can see. Now what is great about this software is we have a feature called pockets. Pockets is a way of aggregating or say collectively combining a lot of live docs so that you can share it with your team members. Let's say you're building an application in different languages. So quite obviously you wanted to have packages documented to the extent that you want. A package may be providing like a ton of files, but you really don't want to have all of them. So you just collect those which you want from that package, document them, and move it into a folder like what I call as pockets. And as you can see, this is coming from two different repositories, Sterling PDF and React Virtualized. Maybe you want to build a package out of it. It's easy to, so you can see if you select this, you will be able to browse the documentation. You can also browse multiple repositories in the same spot. That's one of the great features of this particular feature. Now let's go back to edit and let's try to see what came out of sklearn. Where is SQL? Okay, here it is SQL learn. So you can see there are a lot of files which have some useful objects, and let's go to this one and select a particular object, and you can write the documentation. It's simple and straightforward. Now let's go to the let's open this and check what settings are available for us. So the way we provide this application is that we are building the LiveDocs for different languages. Right now we have around 6 to 8 languages which are ready, and during the time of release we are most likely going to release around 4 languages. One is Golang, the other is Python, we have Java, JavaScript, C++, and a lot are going to come in the coming times. And this is the tab where you add your SSH key value pairs so that you can connect to your your repository service provider like GitHub, GitLab, Bitbucket, or anything you name it. It could be like your internal company Git as well, so appearance and stuff like that. So I think this pretty much explains what we are working on, and thank you very much for listening.